It's January 2017. A research team led by ornithologist Mark Bonta is tracking raptors in northern Australia. They're documenting behavior patterns, flight paths, hunting techniques, standard field work. Then Bonta notices something that doesn't fit any known behavioral model. A black kite, a medium-sized hawk with a 2-meter wingspan, is deliberately flying toward an active fire. Not away from it. Toward it. The bird hovers above the flames. It watches, and then it does something that shouldn't be possible. It picks up a burning stick in its talons and flies it to an unburned area of grassland. The stick falls. The grass ignites. A new fire spreads. The bird circles back to the original fire, grabs another burning branch, and repeats the process. It's conducting controlled arson on purpose, with intention. Bonta watches this happen multiple times over several weeks. He documents it. He films it. He knows what he's seeing is real, but he also knows that if he publishes this without absolute certainty, he'll be dismissed as delusional. A bird setting fires intentionally. It violates everything we understand about animal behavior. Animals don't use tools with this level of sophistication. Animals don't plan. Animals don't think ahead. Animals don't commit arson, but this bird does. The black kite is common across Australia, Africa, and Asia. To most observers, it's unremarkable. It's a generalist predator. It eats small mammals, insects, other birds. It hunts by soaring at high altitude, spotting movement, and diving to catch prey. It's efficient, but not exceptional. For millennia, it's been doing this same hunting pattern without innovation. Then, at some point in the last few thousand years, a mutation or behavioral adaptation emerged in the Australian population. These birds figured something out that changed their entire relationship with fire. Fire flushes prey into the open. When a wildfire moves through grassland, small animals run. Snakes slither out of hiding. Insects scatter. Normally, the black kite would have to hunt through dense vegetation, searching for movement, relying on luck. But if there's a fire, the prey has nowhere to hide. Everything flushes toward the edges of the burn zone. The bird doesn't have to search. It just has to wait at the fire line and intercept panicked animals. So the birds learn to start fires. Not all black kites do it. Only certain populations in Australia have developed this behavior. But in those populations, approximately 25% of individual birds engage in fire-spreading behavior on a regular basis. They figured out that carrying burning branches to new locations creates multiple smaller fires that spread faster and flush more prey. It's not random. It's not accidental. It's calculated resource management. The mechanism is simple but brilliant. The bird doesn't understand combustion chemistry or oxygen supply. It doesn't need to. It understands cause and effect. Fire equals flushing prey. More fires equal more prey flushed. Therefore, spread the fire. The bird has reverse-engineered arson through pure evolutionary pressure. What makes this discovery so disturbing is the realization it forces. The birds are now setting fires more frequently than they would occur naturally in some regions. The black kite is, in effect, engineering its own ecosystem. It's not adapting to fire. It's creating fire. It's become an apex predator not through speed or strength, but through the ability to weaponize environmental forces. It's the closest thing to pyrokinesis that exists in the natural world. The indigenous Australian peoples have known about this for thousands of years. Aboriginal Australians have documented and tracked these birds. They call them Firehawks. The knowledge exists in oral tradition, in song lines, in cultural practices, but the Western scientific community didn't believe it until Bonta filmed it in the 2010s. Because Western science doesn't trust observations that don't fit theoretical models. And fire-setting birds didn't fit any model. The implications are staggering. If birds can deliberately spread fire to manipulate their environment, what does that mean for fire ecology? What does it mean for land management? What does it mean for our understanding of animal intelligence and intentionality? Suddenly, some percentage of wildfires in northern Australia might not be natural. They might be set by birds, for food. But there's a darker implication. The birds are spreading fire more frequently than the ecosystem evolved to handle. Native plants that depend on long fire-free periods are being burned before they can mature. The fire regime is being altered by a single species for its own benefit, without regard to the broader ecosystem consequences. The birds are solving their own problem food scarcity by creating a new problem, ecological collapse in slow motion. This raises a philosophical question. Is this intelligence? Is the bird's behavior evidence of problem-solving and planning? Or is it just instinct encoded by evolution? The distinction matters because it changes how we understand the boundary between animal behavior and human intelligence. Humans use fire intentionally. We've been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years. We set controlled burns to manage forests. We use fire as a hunting tool. We've engineered entire civilizations around our ability to control fire. The black kite is doing something fundamentally similar. It's using fire as a tool. It's planning the deployment of that tool. It's evaluating the results and adjusting behavior based on outcomes. The research on this is still emerging. Banta's work was initially met with skepticism, but additional observations from other researchers have confirmed the behavior. The black kite in Australia is definitely spreading fire intentionally. The mechanism is definitely prey flushing. The impact on fire ecology is definitely significant, and the bird is definitely getting better at it over generations. There's evidence that younger birds are more successful at fire spreading than older birds, suggesting the behavior is cultural. It's being taught from parent to offspring, refined over time, optimized through trial and error. This is tool use. This is fire management. This is ecological engineering. By any definition, this is intelligence operating at a level we typically reserve for primates and cetaceans. The question that researchers are now grappling with is, what happens if this behavior spreads to other raptor species? What happens if other birds figure out that fire equals food? The black kite populations that do this are localized to certain regions of Australia. But the behavior isn't limited to Australia. Black kites exist across Africa and Asia. If the behavior is adaptive, if it actually increases individual fitness, then there's evolutionary pressure for it to spread. Other birds in other regions might eventually develop the same behavior. The possibility that humans might one day share the planet with multiple species that deliberately set fires is terrifying and fascinating in equal measure. We think of fire as our domain. We think of ourselves as the only species that can intentionally create and control it. But nature has found an alternative solution. Nature has encoded fire-setting behavior into the nervous system of a bird. And that bird is now reshaping the landscape through the application of that behavior. The black kite doesn't know it's an arsonist. It doesn't have a criminal intent. It's just hunting. It's just trying to eat. But the effect is the same as if a human deliberately set fires across the Australian outback. Entire fire regimes are being altered. Entire plant communities are being disrupted. The landscape itself is being transformed by the intentional application of fire by a non-human species. There's a poetic irony here. Humans invented fire. We mastered it. We built civilizations on our ability to control it. We see ourselves as unique in this regard. And then we discover that a bird, a creature we typically think of as less intelligent, less capable, less worthy of moral consideration, has independently discovered the same tool. It's come up with the same strategy. It's implementing it with precision and intention. And it's doing it without guilt, without moral consideration, without the burden of knowing that it might be causing ecological damage. The Firehawk doesn't worry about collateral damage. It doesn't debate the ethics of altering fire regimes. It just spreads fire because fire equals food. And in that simplicity, in that purity of purpose, there's something that challenges our sense of human exceptionalism. We've always thought of tool use as something that separated us from the rest of the animal kingdom. But the black kite has picked up that tool and wielded it, not with our sophistication, but with our ruthlessness. The real question isn't whether the bird is intelligent. The real question is whether we're ready to accept that intelligence and intentionality might be more common in the natural world than we've assumed. But the things we think of as uniquely human tool use, planning, ecological engineering, might be strategies that evolution has arrived at independently in multiple species. The Firehawk is proof that we're not alone in our ability to reshape the world through fire. We're just the first species to do it, and we've had a long head start. But that head start is closing. The bird is learning. The behavior is spreading. And one day we might wake up in a world where intentional fire setting by non-human species isn't an anomaly. It's the norm. The Firehawk will have its place in a new ecological order, and we'll have to share the landscape with a creature that, like us, understands fire. A creature that, like us, uses it as a tool. A creature that, like us, is willing to burn the world if it means eating.